We're going to be spending the next hour or so talking about tips to streamline your submittal drawings. We're going to walk you through a typical room layout using Toolbox, our AutoCAD-based design for manufacturing platform. And we'll talk with you about how to create 3D drawings, 2D plans, elevations, sections. And Amy has a long-time AutoCAD user and is going to give you a lot of useful tips along the way. Remember, you can ask a question at any time. Just type it there in that chat window, and one of our techs or myself will help you with that answer. And we'll actually see if we can get Amy to answer some of those live. I know she likes doing that. Well, let's get things turned over to Amy, and she gets into this topic of tips to streamline your submittal drawings. Welcome, Amy.
All right, thanks, Clay. Good to see all the interaction there with Martin. That's great with all the new things that are coming out and available to everybody to get started and implemented. All right. So what I'm going to talk about today is how to set up your shop drawings, how to get the best environment set up to make everything cohesive and uniform between your users. When your company submits a set of shop drawings, you shouldn't be able to tell who drew those drawings other than down there in the bottom right-hand corner or whatever corner you put it in, the initials of the drafts person that did that. It really helps because the companies, the GCs, architects and stuff are very used to seeing that information over and over again and know where to search for it. Your manufacturing guys out in the shop know exactly where they need to look for cross sections or details or information to be able to put the cabinet together correctly, and then even for the installation guys. So the more you can keep that consistent, the easier it's going to be able for people to go find that information. Now, one thing about setting this up is setting up your drawing templates at the very beginning. If you find yourself resetting up a different page every single time, or user one has different text styles and dimension styles and stuff like that than user two, you're really going to be able to see the difference. So what you want to do is set up your drawing template from the very beginning as a company standard. So a few things here, we can go into our Help tab, browse to factory data. Slide this over, I don't have it over here. And we have our drawing templates. Microvellum comes with an extruded product builder template and an Imperial or metric, if you're on the metric version, annotative drawing template. You can right click and copy and create your own. You can also copy in an older one that you have. I'm going to go through a few things today that we haven't covered in the previous days of maybe how to import and export some of that information to customize your own drawing template. Now, when Microvellum opens up into their Imperial Library, they automatically had it set up with your plan view, elevation, and details markers here, and it coincides with their page setups down here at the bottom. And basically the idea behind this, if I draw my plan in this plan view box and my elevation here and my details over here pointing up, they're already going to be set up. I'm not going to have to go into the page setup and try to find them or figure out where in the drawing they're at or zooming in and out or making sure they're the right scale. It's already pre-set up. My setup, I do something very similar to that. I'm very particular about the way I have everything lined up. So I go ahead and use infinity lines and shoot some horizontal and vertical lines, and you can put those on a def points layer or a no print layer. So I tell it, I have to think about if I bring on a new user or, I'm trying to implement it. I've spent my couple of months getting it all designed and implemented and everything, and I'm handing it over to someone else. I want everybody to know where it's looking at. Maybe I did my project and I was on vacation for a week and somebody had to pick it up. Everybody should be able to open up that drawing and know exactly where they need to be looking for those details. So I get set up my plan views, my elevations, because I can drop my elevations below, and my section views. I may have certain locations over here, like the top left is going to be where I insert any of my additional documentation like PDFs or XREFs or anything like that. Maybe my details have a certain location. There may be certain details that you use every single time that you go ahead and incorporate in. I know some people have talked, if you stay with James for the solid model extruded product builder portion of the training this week, you may already have a defined cross section that you like to use for your die walls and stuff. So any of that information could be in here and already pre-set up for you. Now, the other thing that you can go in and customize is your logos. Microvellum automatically feeds in a title block for you. So you can go in and do an edit block and change out your logo. You can move any of these things around or add to them. If you fill out your project properties information, it's automatically going to feed into your title block. And then if you watch Mondays and Tuesdays videos, I show you a way to insert fields. Today, I'm going to show you how to actually edit some of these blocks. So we're going to do this session a little bit different than what we had before as another option, because we're actually going to edit this block instead of just the attributes. So stay tuned for that, and I'm going to show you how to set that one up. Another thing when you're setting up your drawing templates is think about your dimension styles. Microvellum in the last 2 years has started implementing AutoCAD's annotative scale. It took me a long time to be on board with this one. I liked my SCL, and I'm going back and forth between my 1/2 inch and my 1.5 inches. The thing is if you forgot to do it, then all of a sudden your cross sections are going to be the wrong dimensions. Well, with annotative scale, no matter what I put it in my paper space and page setup versus what I'm looking here in my model space, it's automatically going to update to whatever scale I have set over here at the bottom. It's for your dimensions, your item numbers, your text, everything like that. So definitely check into getting everything set up on the annotative scale. I believe starting around the 50-ish library, it's automatically set up there for you. There's a few clicks in your drawing options that you may have to set up. Sorry, your options, which is your Microvellum options, drawing options, or AutoCAD options, to make sure that that's set up for you. With that being said, you can go into your dimension styles in your drawing template. So we're going to go ahead and look at this, dimension styles. Another thing to speed up, I use a lot of key commands, or just go down to the command bar and kind of start typing what I want to work with. You do have all of these tables and buttons up here at the top. Definitely feel free, if that's what you're used to using, go ahead and do that. But every time I have to move my mouse and go click another button, you're taking a second, 2 seconds. By the time you start adding all of those seconds up, by the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, all the time, the end of the year, there's your free week's worth of vacation, because you saved time being able to speed that information up. Time is money for everybody. So if I go into my annotative scale and I hit modify, I have a lot of different options with my dimension styles to be able to choose from. Maybe I don't want to do arrows. I want to do your architectural ticks. Maybe my leaders, I want to have dots versus arrows. My text style, we have an annotative style, but you can also go in and maybe change the font. Maybe your company who likes the architectural script font, or you've come up with your own custom fonts. Maybe you like Arial versus the Romans or something like that. So there's a lot of changes that you can make. You can decide what size you want it to print on the piece of paper. Maybe you want all of your dimensions in between the lines versus above the lines. You can add if you want leaders or not. You can have primary units. You can have decimal fractions. You can have architectural. So maybe it's 2'6" versus 30 inches. And you can also dial in your precision if you want to. If you're working with metric and imperial, you can also add an alternative unit, so it will present both of those dimensions for you. So once you get this set up, make sure that you set that up in your drawing template label, or a drawing template file. The other thing is layers. If you are working with floor plans and maybe you need to mark out solid surface seals or wood trim, or different locations and stuff on a floor plan of different products or things that you're working with, maybe you have a different color for countertops versus cabinets and that kind of thing, go ahead and preset those layers up. That way everybody knows that that's the layer, that's what you're going to call it, that's the color that you're going to be used. So I can immediately come in, and as soon as I see green, I know that that's solid surface that I'm using on my floor plans. There's different line types, so maybe if you wanted them dashed, or transparencies, lightening those up. So definitely look into layers. That really helps clean up and sort a drawing for you. Now, the other thing that we have, and I'm definitely say refer back to the videos that Clay is going to put out in the next week or two from these, about inserting and importing PDFs and different files like that. So you're going to do an XREF to pull in even DWGs and stuff like that for a background behind it. XREFs are really good because as soon as you update that external file, it's going to feed in and update here. So you're not having to worry about, oh, I forgot to copy this over if that document changed or anything. You can also import a PDF. So if I have a floor plan of a project that the architect's given me, I can import that PDF. I can clean off all the lines that I don't want to see anymore, and it gives me a clean floor plan for my installers to look at to be able to refer the locations of the rooms. You can use an align command, and that will align that drawing up so you can actually pull wall dimensions off of that, or I can copy a polyline from there. So if you have a radius die wall or anything like that, you can copy the polyline off of it, and you can actually, when you use your draw, you can draw to a polyline for a wall, and create it exactly the way that the architect had dimensioned it out, versus trying to get the scale and figure out what those dimensions are. There also is an option when you import to do it as a scale. Some people have good luck with that and some people don't. I have found that I have better luck with doing the align command after I have imported it. You can also just insert a PDF. So if you have a PDF saved in a File Explorer location somewhere else, you can just drag that file over and drop it in there. I believe that Roman has a thing in his training. So if you stay to the next class on that. I have lost my mouse. There we go. It's basically doing a Microsoft has a snipping tool. You basically snip a clip of that and Control V and paste it in there. That is one of my favorite tools, even for emails and correspondences and that kind of stuff. It's great just to be able to take that. It's better than the old print screen thing, and you're able to actually go in and mark up and highlight and draw and write on top of it. So snipping tool is a great feature for anything, not just for the Microvellum and shop drawing status. All right, a few things that I wanted to talk about in your toolbox setup. You have a wall setup and a product drawing setup. For your wall setup, that's going to control this the width dimension here, the height dimension, and then this marker down below to be able to give your elevations. You can turn those on and off if you don't want to see those when you're drawing your product. As far as for the product setup, that gives you the dimension above your product and below your product. I think they come in at 12 inches. I usually run anywhere from 12 to 16 inches for that offset. That usually gives you enough room for your item numbers to be shown. If you're working in residential and you have a higher, 6-inch crown or something, you might want to bump that up a little bit just so everything starts going up above it to get your dimensions lined up. You can also control a lot of your shop drawing information. So when you're looking here at the plan view with all of the dimensions, also when you're looking at your finished end, your grain arrows, even like some of the shelf lines and different things like that, you have control of those in your global variables. So I'm going to go over here to my toolbox setup, my project specification groups. So I have a PL1 upper, and I'm going to go into my global variables. Sorry, I was working this morning. Everything's on the wrong screen. So in my job setup variables in shop drawings, you have options here for the 2D product elevations. So maybe you're getting, drawer lines that are turned on and you want to turn those off. This is where you would have it set up as your annotative options to be able to translate everything over into annotative. Maybe with your finished end text, you want an F.E. I have a client that uses applied end panels and they still come in saying FE, so they prefer to have it say AEP. You can change the name of your adjustable shelf and your fixed shelf. If you don't want it to say anything, there is a way to go in there and tell it not to say anything. You have the option for your color labels, so it's automatically coming in with, oh, I don't have enough room. So I'll show you where the color labels are coming in, but you can actually draw a little box around that color label if you want to be able to control some of that. You have, if you want to show your grain on your grain direction products, or you want to be able to move the grain directions on the doors and drawers, sometimes that gets a little crowded. You can move those around. You also have options in your 2D plan drawings. So maybe you're doing everything in your 2D drawings and you want a description. So it's, 2 door, 2 drawer, and somebody can look at it at the plan view to be able to tell that. You also have the control, those extra dimensions that we saw outside of the wall. You have control of those in, you can either move them to the front or the back, so in front of the cabinet or at the wall level, or you can turn those on and off. You also have different offsets if you want to be able to control that. So we have added a lot of new controls for your shop drawings in your global variable options. There also are options inside of the cabinets and walls themselves. So the first thing I'm going to show you is inside of the wall. We're just going to do our product prompts to get into our wall. Now, when you're drawing walls, you can go clockwise or counterclockwise. So clockwise is going to put your cabinets inside of your wall, and counterclockwise is going to put cabinets on your outside of your wall. Now, if you need a wall to have cabinets on both sides, maybe your wall is supposed to be 5 inches thick. I might suggest drawing one at 2.5 and the other at 2.5 and putting those two walls together to combine it. We had a question yesterday about maybe island or peninsula walls. You can draw the drawing or you draw the cabinets and just place them to a point. And then there's an option just to do 2D drawings, and you can grab all of those cabinets and put them down there. I like to go ahead and create this wall and then just change the height to like a 1/16 of an inch and the depth to a 1/16 of an inch. It's just going to give you a thick line on your drawing, but you're still going to have those products associated to a wall. So that's definitely an option that you can do. We've recently added that you can do obstructions. So if I wanted to add a column, I can do the columns. You used to have to draw all of those little parts of the wall inside of there, and any kind of field dimensions or things you would have to modify every single part of those walls, where now the columns are automatically in there and drawn. You have your options for your windows and doors. We can do 2 windows and 2 doors. These are doors or cased openings or, sheetrock openings. And then inside of the 2D drawings, you can turn on your plan tokens and dimensions. The other one that I want to show you is you can also do a hatched plan view. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this one back out. And you can see I've added this hatch inside of here. And here's my little column that I have located inside of here. If I go down to my elevation view, now you can see it's actually drawn this column inside of here. So this column is part of the wall and it's able to move around. Now, if you decide that you always want a hatch on this isn't a global or anything like that, you can set up, you can create prompts inside of your globals to control this information. Currently, it's not set up that way. Now I'm going to go into something, and if you do not have permission to be able to go into this, if you are not the lead engineer, if you haven't used it before, definitely be careful. This is something you can go in once you make changes here. It will affect everybody's library and information inside of there. If you are worried about this aspect, under company setup, you can set up your different employees and you can set up their secure information. So maybe you just have people that do production. You can turn off everything else and only set up information for production. If you have a lead engineer that's doing development and stuff and they need access to everything, then you can do controls through there. If you just have a brand new drafter and you only want them drafting and not messing with anything else, you can set those permissions and security settings inside of that information. I've even had companies that, I've been the lead engineer and I'll still set up an admin account. That way it forces me to know I'm going in as an admin, I'm making these modifications, and I'm not, I am focused and I know what I'm doing because I'm going in there to make changes. So definitely check up those setups. If you're working on an SQL server based, I would highly, highly recommend that. So we're going to go into our options tab, our utilities tab, our database explorer. This holds all of the spreadsheets for everything that Microvellum has. So if we look at here, we have our library with all our products, subassemblies, spec groups, and everything inside of there. We're actually going to go to the room components, products, walls, and then I can double click on this wall. If you ever click on the edit design data of a product, that's the information that we're going to. It's our workbook designer information. We're going to go into the L, which is the local spreadsheet for that. We can go into our prompts, scroll down here at the bottom. So right here, if I want to hatch the plan view, it's hard coded at 0. So if we did create a global, we could tell it to go look at that global, or we could just go ahead and check a 1 and it would automatically put that information. If you had a certain different kind of pattern that you wanted to use, you could definitely change it right here and refer into the hatching pattern that you wanted to use. All right, so that gives us the information for that. Now, as far as a product, your drawing options with those. Down at the very end of this, we have a drafting column. So as far as our AutoCAD labels, so that is this label right here where it says PL1. So you can change the location of this. So definitely if I were to have this finished end right here, it automatically comes halfway up to the top. I can move it down to the bottom. And if I wanted to, I could have a box right here. So I'm going to do a color label on the box, or sorry, a color box on the color label box on the color. That was a tricky one there. All right, so the product on the 2D elevations for that finished in, like I said, right now it's half. Maybe I want it about 4 inches up from the top because right now it's running smack dab and running into all of that information. Do have control over your plan sections and your 2D sections and your plan views. So maybe if you do want to include finished in dimensions and that kind of stuff. So if I go ahead and hit OK on this one, so you can control those all at an individual cabinet level. If you find yourself making those changes on every single cabinet, definitely go look back up your globals and see if that's where that information's being controlled at. So now I've moved this finished in down and I've got my box to go around my color labels. Color labels come from your specification groups, whatever the name in the cut parts. It's the first 4 letters inside of the cut parts name. So if I needed this to say PL10, then you would want to make sure that you have PL10 in there on those first 4 letters of the cut part name. All right. So now what I want to go into is a little bit more about how I am going to enhance some of these drawings. So you can, Microvellum automatically comes in with all your dimensions. You can do a dimension linear to add the dimension here. I also have a dimension continue, so I can keep going up. There are a lot of dimension commands that maybe you want to be able to pull and control that information. Now, another thing that I like, my little friend Ed taught me about this one, and it's his Ed command. So I have my little, somebody should tell me what these are called. I call them my little Pac-Man guys. So the little Pac-Man guys here are, they hold the actual dimension of whatever that dimension line is. So if we don't use those and we actually type in a value, if you've ever heard pencil whipping a number, the thing is that if that cabinet were to change, it's not going to give you the realistic dimension. It's going to give you another dimension. So definitely be careful if you do not use your Pac-Mans. But maybe I need those all to say, you know, clear or equal or verify or anything like that. I can go ahead and hit that information, grab those 3 dimensions, and they're going to update. I can also go back in and just tell it that I want it just to do the dimensions, and I can grab them and update that down. So that's really nice, especially when you have, you know, a lot of countertop support brackets that are just supposed to be equal, equal, equal. You can go ahead and pull those dimensions and then fill that inside of there. Instead of having a whole nother dimension style that is like a verify style, if there's just certain ones that you want to do as a verify, you can just do the ED command and set up your verify information on there. Now, if I have a dishwasher right here and I need to go ahead and set up that it needs an appliance spec, well, it's probably going to be the same information for your dishwasher, your microwave, or your hood, your oven, your refrigerator, and that kind of stuff. So you can actually set up a block for this information. So I'm going to go ahead and do a text box here and type in equipment. Now you can add in, you know, model numbers and that kind of stuff. I think we have a live event that I went into a lot more detail of what this one is, and you can get it centered up and located of where you want it. So I'm going to use this every single time. So instead of typing it every single time and then moving and copying that kind of stuff, I'm going to actually write a block and I'm going to put it inside of my tool palettes to be able to use that information over and over again. Once again, it's consistency. You can import and export these tool palettes and share them with other users. And that way, all of your text and information and the wording and stuff is all going to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. You can hit save up here. You can do control save. It just kind of depends on how close I am up to that save button. So I am going to go into a write block. This is all AutoCAD commands. That's a great thing about Microvellum. AutoCAD is a very, very powerful program. And then you take Microvellum, that's a very, very powerful program with cabinetry, and combine the two. I mean, the options are endless on what you have available with this. All right, so I am going to grab some objects, picking a point. If I know that I'm always going to put it in the center or at the bottom or the top, I can select that information. I'm going to go ahead and convert it into a block. I'm just going to put it on my desktop. I would suggest having a folder that you put this in. I might also suggest just opening up another DWG and drawing all of these blocks inside of there. That way, if you do need to make any changes, they're in one location and you're not trying to go figure out where they're at inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I've got to select those. I'm going to say OK. And hit save. So I have my block right here. Now always make sure you hit save. So right here, there's not a star beside of it, so that means I've saved it. As soon as I come here and I zoom in and out, see how there's a star up there, and that means it hasn't been saved. So now that I have that block, I'm going to hit Control-3. And that is going to open up my tool palettes. Now, over the years, I've been doing this since 2004. Over the years, many different companies, information. Now, remember, you can pull these in off of websites, AutoCAD's blocks. I mean, you can basically go on to and search any format and be able to pull in different blocks. Like I said, hardware companies may have that information to you, sync companies, appliance companies, and that kind of stuff. So you can pull in any of those. You can create your tabs over here on the right. I'm just going to throw it in on top of here. So I am going to right click and copy, and then I'm going to go to whichever one that I want, and I'm going to come in here and paste. And see it pop down in here. It called it new block because that's what I named it. So now when I get ready, I can go in here and just grab my block. I can pop it in here. I'm going to right click. If you are slow, or you're seeing a lot of things pop up or commands, or maybe your mouse isn't working the same as mine, if you go into your Toolbox Setup and your drawing options, those are your AutoCAD options to be able to work AutoCAD. If you have any questions about AutoCAD stuff, go to their Autodesk forum and help documents. There's a lot of information inside of there. So right click customization, being able to change your different pick point sizes and stuff like that will definitely help speed this up. So all of a sudden I have all of these different options right here, and I was able to do those blocks. If I needed to edit it, it is a block. I would sit there and explode it. Now I can double click and I can go in and actually put in the new information that I have. Now the reason I find this very powerful is when I'm updating like my cross sections and stuff. So these hinges weren't there. I forgot to delete them yesterday. So I actually have hinges inside of here. I can grab that and drop it. My pick point was on my center, and I can drop those in. I have seen some really amazing dynamic blocks that people have done. Basically, they click on this little hinge and there's a drop down box. So it might be a grass hinge, a bloom hinge, a face frame hinge, a 5-knuckle industrial hinge. So they only have the one block that they drop over here, and then they can just pick it and move it back and forth. So a lot of different options that they have. Now, Microvellum has your drawing tokens that will come in with the pools and that kind of information. So definitely, you know, those come in, but you do have extra options. So don't just think about it as hardware. You can also think about it as detailing too. Now, another thing that you can do is inside of the Help tab, and we go to the Browse to Factory database. Microvellum has an entire graphics folder in here that it's looked to for different information. One of my favorite ones to go to, especially for residential guys, is the molding tab. We have all of these different moldings inside of here that are already DWGs. So I can actually just take this 2.5-inch crown molding drawing and drag it over here and drop it into my tool palette. And now I have this detail. I can grab it and drop it into my drawing. So I've got the detail of the crown molding. I can explode it out and draw my lines to draw, you know, what would look like elevation views or different things like that. So Microvellum has like bund feet and turnings, and I mean, there's an amazing amount of information that Microvellum's already put into their graphics folder that you can bring into that tool palette to help you update and expand your information on here. So that is for the tool palettes. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to go into my paper space, and I'm going to look at my title block. So if I right click and then do a block editor, it's going to open it up in a different location. So you can drop in your logo. You can move this in and out. Maybe you want thicker lines or triple lines, or this line isn't in the right place or anything like that. You can go in and make any of those modifications with any of these blocks. So the other day I showed you, if you double click on this one, you can go into the attribute and you can insert fields. If you're already pre-set up, then you're having to do that every single time. If you want to, you can edit the block here. We can go into our block editor. And so instead of it just being the sheet, there's another attribute. That's the way that these are designed. They're blocks. that's why it's able to feed in and have the attribute information. What I normally do is come in here and I copy it. Maybe I want to change the size or the location or whatever I need to in here. So when I double click, actually, I'm going to do another text box in here. And then you can do MA for your matching your properties. All right, and so now when I come back in here, I can right click and I can insert a field. And we're going to drop down to the other system variable, and that one is called the C tab. So same thing up here for the date. I'm going to go up here and copy. I'm going to match the properties on this one. And I want to edit that field. So instead of that one, I'm going to actually do the date, save date. You have different options for date and different ways that it actually spells those dates out. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to save my title block information. Now, because there were already attributes inside of here, if I delete this one out, now I may have to go back in and make this a little bit bigger so that it shows up the full name and everything. So what this is going to do, if I come down here and rename this to 101, and then I can do a regen or a save on that, it's going to automatically feed those tabs. So instead of doing it every single time, or I added a sheet, now I'm renumbering all of my sheets and stuff, it's actually going to update that information. Now, the difference in doing it this way versus the way I've done it the previous 2 days is because this title block uses that block on every single page, it automatically updates it on every single page that we did. So definitely that's something that you want to set up in your drawing templates. All right. So if we go back. All right. Now, the way that I created this secondary room is through product groups. In your modify tab, modify products, you can create what they call group products. So I was able to select all the cabinets right here. I found a common point. I knew that I would always work for my corner. Maybe you're doing this for apartment complex kitchens. So you have kitchen A, B, and C, and you're putting them in different ones. Or, you know, you're working with a home builder. Or you have 12 o'clock cabinets for dental offices or classrooms. Or you've done medical facility on the east side of town, and now you're doing it on the west side of the town, and it's the same ones. This is an easy way to move between, if you've opened up different rooms, DWG rooms, and open those up for every single one, and you want to drop the same products in, you can just grab them and group them and keep dropping them in that way. Or if you actually have different projects, you can copy that group of cabinets from one project to another project with group products. So when I drew those in and I dropped my products in and I had, applied different spec groups to all of these, I use what we call an X line or an infinity line. Like I said, I'm very particular about all my stuff lining up. And now I'm going to go ahead over here to my Draw 2D walls. Definitely look into making customizing your toolbar. I call my quick toolbar. Most of the time, I want to live in my Draw products world. And then any other command that I use more than 5 times a day, I'm going to put it in here. You can sort these out however you want to. You can add these little separator bars. So maybe you have some just for product manipulation, for work order manipulation, product in-depth manipulation or library changes. So you can set these up per user of how best it works for you. So I'm going to do my Draw 2D walls. I'm going to draw this wall here and I'm going to drop it in. Uh-oh, what happened? I don't have any 2D drawings associated with this. When I dropped in this product or this group products, and you can find that inside of your draw products, if you do your arrow over, you have a product groups. And then I can just grab that group. You can name them so that you know which cabinet they're, if it's kitchen A or kitchen B or, facility X, Y, Z, that kind of stuff. Name that in there. So when I drop that in, or maybe I have copied it from one wall to another wall or done a mirror on it or something like that, and I need it to be associated to this room and not the other. If I go to the Modify tabs, Modify Room Components, there is this associate products to wall and remove wall association. So if I've copied products, I will most likely do a remove wall association and then do an associate products to wall. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to select the wall that I'm doing, and then I can just do a window around those parts. So as long as I'm getting the pink item numbers on here, I can grab my pink item numbers, and it's telling me down here I've selected 8 of them, and it's associating it to that wall. Now, if it's still not going to show up. So down here, I have a redraw 2D walls. I just have a shortcut right in here. And I'm going to redraw that. Troy, I see your thing. Yeah, so adding the drawing tokens, I covered that a little bit yesterday in the solid surface countertops, how to add drawing tokens. We were able to add tokens to be able to get it to draw a 2D elevation, and we were able to do it so that it drew it on a 2D drawing level. So there may be some things missing in some of the products, or you may want to enhance your cross sections or your elevation or plan views with different notations and stuff. So yes, definitely, if Clay can put in some of the links, or wait for yesterday's video to come out for you, we did cover a little bit on there for your drawing tokens. All right, so as you can see, now it is drawn. I actually have this set on a different global, so you can see my grain arrows, my finished end markers and stuff that are a little bit different than what they are on the original one. All right, so if you already have your page spaces or page setups down here, and you're drawing in that general location of where it's supposed to be done, it will already be laid out for you. Microvellum has these blocks created. You can come in here and change the size of them. You can double click or right click and edit. You can come in and change the attribute. So if you needed to call this, you know, room 1, or change the scales or that kind of stuff, you can definitely go in here. They also have this interactive marker. My fingers and my brain aren't working on the same speed there, so you can go ahead and set that up. Now see, I'm going to be anal about it. That's crooked to me. So you can hit your F8 button. That's going to turn on your ortho. Like I said, that was one button here on my left hand versus my mouse being on my right hand, and I'm not having to go down here and try to turn this ortho on and off. So I can just hit my copy on this, and now it's actually going to be in line. I can hit this one and rotate, and now you can, same thing, you can double click and you can modify that information inside of there. Now, as you can see with this one, there's 2 different layouts that I like to show when I'm setting up my plan views. We have a lot of information on this one. So there's a lot of dimensions. You can see your upper cabinets, your base cabinets, your countertops inside of here, sinks, that kind of stuff. It might be a little bit cluttered inside of here. So the way this is controlled is basically all of the 3D information. So if I go into my layers, all of the 3D CAD layers are turned off or frozen in that viewport. So you have to be careful, make sure it's in the viewport. If you turn them on and off, they're actually going to turn them on and off in all of your drawings. So this is just for the viewport. That 3D information is turned off, and you get the 2D information. So the alternative method to this is I go in and I do just the flip opposite of that. I turn off all my 2D information and have my 3D, and then I switch it over to a hidden view. So with that, I have just like the bird's eye view. So I'm looking down, I see the part of the upper cabinet that I see. I can see the countertop. I don't see the cabinets below that because technically I wouldn't be able to see that information. Now, one thing I do on this one is I turn off the 3D walls and leave the 2D wall and the 2D hatching on. That helps with some of these dimension lines right here not being hidden by that information because it's sitting at the 0 versus at a higher level. So that is definitely one option with that. Now, I will say anytime you're using a hidden, if you right click on there and go to your properties, you're going to want to use the legacy hidden as your shade plot for this. No matter what you do, it's going to print out as a color unless you go to that legacy hidden, and then it'll actually print it out in black and white for you. So that's an alternate view on that one. So when I look at, if I've already got everything set up for my elevations, really quickly, I can just make a copy of this. Now I know the next elevation for this project or for this room is right below it. Now, if I was going to the next room, I would just scan and I would go to the right side of it. That's why definitely sitting there doing the layouts, all I'm having to do is just scroll from left to right on these, and I've got my page spaces set up wham bam kind of thing. Same thing with my details here. I've got these drawings pre-set up into my scale and that kind of stuff. So that information's like automatically coming in for that. I stretched that one yesterday. That's why it didn't fit inside of there. So that's whatever Microvellum gives you, you can go in and stretch it. Now, if I were to redraw that cabinet and tell it to redraw that cross section, those dimensions would have went back. So kind of be careful with that. If you have stretched anything and you tell it to update that cross section, those dimensions will push back over. All right, so anytime you have those, you can come in here, and if you want to publish, you can click one and then, control click or shift click, and you can go in and publish those layouts. You can also just type publish and go in and control those. You may want to make sure that you have your page set up for printing and plotting. All right, the other thing that I want to show you, this kind of feeds into, if you stay with us and watch James on your solid model and your extruded product builders. This also helps when you're setting up your drawing template. I'm going to use ADC, which is AutoCAD Design Center. Once again, this is an AutoCAD function. Basically, it gives you all of the products and stuff. So I actually have a secondary file opened up. It is just the Microvellum extruded product tools template that comes in. So if I were to look at that and I were to go into my layers, and I'm going to just switch this to a list version. When you set up your smart layers, it's going to come in as a MV1, and then there's a lot of information associated. If you watch any of James' videos, or he might be showing it today about the smart layers, all that information that you set up in that smart layer is feeding into the name of the Microvellum layer. So if I were to go in here and I were to grab a couple of these, so I'm going to grab these three and I'm going to pull them. I'm just going to drop them over into my other one. And then I'm going to go in and grab a couple for my PL2. So maybe I've created an extruded product or a solid model and I've set up these layers and it was in a project. And I like them. I like the way they're named. I like my colors. That's my typical manufacturing setup. If you drag those over into your drawing template, now every single time we open this up, I'm going to move this back off screen. So now I'm going to go into my solid modeling, my smart layer manager. Those are automatically fed inside of there. I don't have to recreate them every single time. You may be using something in a new project, but all you have to do is right click and copy. Like I said, stay tuned to James. He's got all of that stuff shown and covered for you. Maybe you have different blocks inside of there. I didn't pay attention to how long this would take to load. So if there is a certain block that you have in one project and not in another, you could go in and grab that information. The other thing that I like to do is layouts. So maybe you've started one project, like I said, medical office east, and now you're doing medical office west, and there's certain layouts or cover pages that you like. Maybe you have an existing project already. You can grab those layouts and drop that information inside of there, and you can get your layouts. The other thing that is cool about this one is your with the layers. In the newer Microvellum data libraries, we've actually added it so that our layers come in with a lot more colors. They are very, very colorful. So like we have a cabinet finished in that's are now blue. Absolutely love the fact that now when I have a finished end on a product, let me go into Southeast. If I have a finished end on a product, it's going to come in as blue. If my upper bottoms are supposed to be finished, they're coming in blue now. They used to just stay one color, and there's a lot of times they may not have got finished, and then you get in trouble by the installers because they're trying to skid them out in there in the field or something. So definitely a cool new function to be able to get all this information in colors. So you can drag and drop. If you have an old template set up, you can purge all of those old unused layers and bring in the new Microvellum layers associated with that. So definitely a way to customize and get everything set up for you in your new system. I'm going to run through and see if I had missed anything. Oh, cross sections. I like to use cross sections without tokens for any kind of L-shaped or U-shaped room. And then my cross sections with tokens down at my actual cross sections. The reason I prefer to use this versus under the draw 2D drawings, we have a draw hatched return. The reason I prefer not to use this is it's not parametric. So if I were to change the heights or the toe kicks or, you know, the drawer fronts through the globals and make that modification, it's not going to update that hatching. I'm going to have to grab and move and change that. So that's why I like to do these cross sections, is because it's automatically going to update. It's giving me a realistic information on those products. Drawing countertops, Microvellum will draw a countertop. You can actually go into the subassembly of these countertops and make manipulations. This is just an AutoCAD 3D drawing for it. We have products that will help you do material calculations in manufacturing and stuff. So on this one, I took my draw countertops off, and I would use actual products to be able to draw those countertops inside of there. All right. So that was a quick spiel. I skipped over a few things as far as in detail. Clay said that we're going to have some recordings. I'm going to pick up some things that, you know, tomorrow that I may cover it a little bit more in depth and then switch the topics up. I know that we have a lot of repeat guys coming in here, and we want to kind of give you something new but still stay on topic. So if you have any additional questions inside of here, a few things that I do want to make note of. If you want to, in any of these products, if you double click in the width, height, depth, or the height above floor, you can actually go point to point and it will fill in that dimension for you. If you right click in here and show your formula, so if I knew, you know, it was equal 44.375 and I had to take 5 inches off or 6 inches off for the filler, and then I needed another, you know, 4 inches off for another reason, this is my calculator for me, and it has that information still built inside of it. So sometimes I will use that as my calculator versus trying to build it out, especially if I'm in a corner cabinet. I'll go ahead and take that, you know, double click in there and get the dimension, and then I'll start subtracting out the depth of my cabinet, the depth of my filler and stuff, and that comes up with my final dimension inside of there. All right, so can you show how to make the ADJ or the fixed shelf not show up? Kevin, you're tricking me on that one. I think that you have to do, is it quote? Maybe one of the other texts can come in there. I know that I play with it quite a bit. I think it's quote or quote space. Let's see. I think that you have to do quote. Is it equals quote? I think that one's it. So now if I just yep, so it's equal quote. And then that takes it off. It's basically just putting a blank inside of that area. So that's the way you're going to be able to take those out. So I'm reading Rod's question here about hiring a new draftsman. And all right, so you're bringing in somebody from the shop without AutoCAD experience, but with a lot of, you know, background and construction knowledge. I really think that that's the best way to do that. You can pretty much teach people how to do AutoCAD. It takes a lot to teach them to have experience, to teach them the difference between what the melamine and plastic laminate, 0.5 millimeter edge banding, 3 millimeter edge banding, how things go together, why one pull is different than another pull. There's a lot of knowledge. So I really think that's awesome that you're doing hiring within. We have a lot of videos and stuff available on the Knowledge website that kind of walks them through there. When I first started this, my community college just did like a continuing education class with AutoCAD. So I was there, whatever, 3-6 months and just took, you know, a 1 or 2 night a week class to do AutoCAD training. I think that Autodesk actually offers some training with their AutoCAD. When we do our new user training, I mean, we have to teach some of the basic topics of AutoCAD too. Now, the one thing is there's not a whole lot, back up on that one. You can know a lot about AutoCAD and it is very, very useful in helping you with Microvellum. But there are also just a few topics that can get you through, you know, how to do dimensions and liters and circles and scaling and that kind of stuff that will get a new user pretty much up to speed, you know, straight out of the thing. So any of those basic things there will be taught while you're doing your Microvellum training to get them on board with all of the training. But yeah, definitely check out your community colleges. Or like I said, you know, maybe an Autodesk. Most of the time they'll do like a one-time continuing education class versus a true, you know, 18-month or 2-year drafting class. Because they probably don't need everything that goes with drafting. They just need a little bit of introduction to AutoCAD. Let's see, were there any, did I miss any other questions or anything like that, Clay? I was trying to look as I was going through.
No, I think you got most of them.
Okay.
I think Kevin's was the first one in here, so just scrolling down, I think we got most of them.
All right.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing here for you and switch it over.
I think today's the first day I've finished on time.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I mean, I wanted to touch on a few other topics, and you said that these videos were going to go live in the next week or two. So if people want to refer back to them or follow along with them, if you have any other additional questions, you know, reach out to your account manager. I think there's different links that the Microvellum guys have got set up for you to be able to contact a service provider or an account manager for additional training to work through some of these. I mean, some of these topics right here, I mean, if I had another hour, I might, you know, an hour or two with training and stuff, we can get your templates and everything like that set up the way that you want it so that you're manufacturing, or if you're, you know, upgrading from one to the other, how to bring all of that information and data into your new system and setup.
Yeah, so we are recording these and we'll make these available as soon as we can. There'll be a little editing. As you might have realized, this is one long event, so we've got some editing to do to slice and dice these up to make them consumable after this event. So for sure, we'll get that done. But as our normal schedule goes, we will be presenting this live again tomorrow as well as Friday. So if there's something that you missed out on, check back tomorrow and you'll probably see Amy presenting something a little bit different, but focusing again on the same topic here of tips to streamline your drafting. So thanks again, Amy, for helping out with this.
Yep, I think tomorrow I'm going to try to touch on, you know, maybe the product list and product viewer. So a lot of people I know estimate, you know, just dropping in everything into the product list and viewer to get the estimating version of it or materials and stuff, and how to take it from an estimator putting in the information to then turning it into your drafting product.
Great. I think that's going to be a great way to put a new spin on this topic.